try this again. Good morning, how we doing? You guys all pumped up to be here? Yeah. Karen said I'm gonna need to hand out antidepressants afterwards. Potato chips. Well, thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate the support and the interest that you have in your own health and wellness. And I'd like to start with just a simple question. Do you know what's really in the food that you eat every day? No. Do you want to know? No. To some degree you do, because you're sitting here. In our modern world, the shelves are full with convenient, colorful, long-lasting packaged foods. But behind the glossy packaging and catchy slogans lies a hidden truth. Many of these products are what scientists call ultra-processed foods, and they're having a serious impact on our health. Today we're going to take a closer look at what ultra-processed foods are, how they're defined, how they're made, and why leading doctors and researchers, including Dr. Mark Hyman, who I'll note in this presentation, Dr. Paul Saladino, and Dr. Josh Axe, are sounding the alarm. Also with the big movement in our administration, the MAHA movement, you'll see a lot more of these things come to light. For chronic disease and weight gain and mental health concerns, the evidence is clear that what we eat matters now more than ever. So let's dive in and uncover what's really at stake. What are ultra-processed foods? I think most of us know it when we see it. Packaged foods, snacks, sodas, frozen dinners, about 75 or 80% of what's at your grocery store. Made from food extracts like oils, fats, sugars, starches, protein isolates. They're more of a lab experiment than they are food. There's a doctor from Brazil that coined the term in 2009, ultra-processed foods. And they did a research project at the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. And what they did was they put the ultra-processed foods into a classification group called the NOVA system. Now, the NOVA system was not meant to demonize any particular food, and it's not even a classification based on sugar, fat, protein. It's based on how processed the food is. So we'll look at understanding the NOVA system and how that can be helpful to you. I think I included that one in your chart. If not, I can give copies to whomever wants it. So with the NOVA classification, it's a scientific framework that groups foods based on the extent and purpose of their processing, not their nutrient content. So the question was posed, are these foods unhealthy just because they have high amounts of sugar, high amounts of fat, or is it something else, something that actually happens during the processing? So we'll look at that. So group one are going to be your unprocessed or minimally processed foods. Your fresh fruits, grains, meats, milk, things that have been slightly altered, washed, or frozen, but remain in their original form. Quality dairy, I would say pastured eggs. I know that there's some controversy over pasteurized versus non-pasteurized, but when you look at your eggs, pasture-raised, cage-free. There's a grade, right, of the quality of egg. But simple preservation like freezing and drying, and those are going to be your group one minimally processed foods. These are the things we want to make the majority of our diet from. Group two, processed culinary ingredients. So substance extracted from whole foods like oil, butter, sugar, salt that are used in cooking to prepare meals. Generally extracted from the foods we talked about in group one. So they're extracted from, still very minimally processed. These things are okay too. And then we get into processed foods. Foods made by adding salt, sugar, or fat to group one foods to preserve them or enhance their flavor. This could be canned vegetables, dried or smoked marinated meats, cheeses, fresh breads, fermented alcoholic beverages, beer, cider, wine. And even these are not the groups that we're looking at. We're looking at the next group, the ultra-processed foods. So group four, this is the bad guys right here. Industrially manufactured products made mostly from food-derived substances and additives, designed to be highly palatable, ready to eat, stay on the shelf for an eternity. Examples include sodas, packaged snacks, instant meats, candy bars, instant noodles. I think we all know when we see them, right? It's that 75% of the food in the grocery store, and I would say 90% in a convenience store. If you walk into a convenience store, it's a pretty sad landscape. The NOVA system helps us differentiate between real, minimally changed foods and highly industrialized food-like products, which are going to be your ultra-processed foods. Highlighting that the processing, it's not just the nutrients, but it's what they do in the processing that can affect your health. Let me scan here. Sometimes ultra-processed foods appear to be healthy when they're not. That is particularly true of ultra-processed versions of flavored yogurts, refrigerated soups, refrigerated pastas, granola bars, juices, breakfast cereals. You guys know my stance on breakfast cereals. Low-fat salad dressings, condiments, and on and on. It's just a matter of reading the ingredients on a food label list to find out what's actually in it. I think the rule of thumb is if your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it, you probably shouldn't eat it. If you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't eat it. And if there's multiple things that you can't pronounce, I think that's a no-brainer, right? I want to show this video right here. So this is yogurt, which can be very healthy, but can also be ultra-processed.
Whole Greek yogurt, it's processed. The moment you add that layer of blueberry jam or whatever, ultra-sweetened stuff, added sugar stuff, now it's ultra-processed. But even like the simplest whole Greek yogurt, it's processed. How do you go from processed whole yogurt to ultra-processed? You remove the fat. A lot of people don't know this because what happens when you remove the fat from yogurt? The whole thing collapses. It doesn't have a mouthfeel of yogurt. So you know what manufacturers do? They put additives, emulsifiers, to build back that thick mouthfeel of rich yogurt. Those emulsifiers, carrageenan, polysorbate 80, et cetera, that we're beginning to realize are not so good for us. And like, for example, carrageenan, which actually originally comes from seaweed, so you think it'd be natural. They synthesize carrageenan now. It's been shown recently to cause gut inflammation. You get enough gut inflammation, you got leaky gut. Yogurt is one of those dairy products that is unquestionably healthy, and it's been historically observed that way. It's a probiotic food, a fermented food. The difference between the processed, healthy type versus the ultra-processed type is a subtlety that is actually hard to even think about unless you know about it. So this is the value of just checking the ingredient.
So that goes from yogurt, which is processed, right? Whole Greek yogurt, because it doesn't come out of the cow like that, so it's processed, to becoming an ultra-processed food, right? They strip the fat out of it. When you strip the fat out of it, it collapses, as he said, so you have to add something back into it. And we'll go over that in a few minutes, the list of all the additives, and you can look at, well, what are they adding to it? These emulsifiers, obviously the sugar-laden top layer has artificial colors, flavors, etc. Just one more. Lunch meat. Now, he's not talking about the deli where they actually have the hunk of meat that's, animal, and they slice off of it. But any of your processed meats, packaged meats,
So a lot of these salamis, bolognas in a deli are all put together from little scraps of meat that come as byproducts of the food industry. We're not talking about freshly butchered, but these processed meats contain all kinds of chemicals, the synthetic nitrates they put in there, other preserves and coloring, and they have been classified as a class 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Abundant evidence that it's likely to increase the risk for cancer, especially colon cancer. These deli meats are basically meat particles that are glued together and then molded into a cylinder. Animals don't come in cylinders like that.
So we talked about the 4 classifications, how to spot them. I think we all have a pretty good idea of what we're talking about here. Dr. Paul Saladino wrote a book called The Carnivore Code, And he says when you take out real food, animal-based nutrients, healthy fats, and replace it with processed junk, you get a sick brain and a sick body. And there's no surprise that depression is on the rise. There's growing evidence to support that claim. There's a cohort study published in the Public Health and Nutrition found that individuals consuming the most ultra-processed food had a 33% increase risk of depression. I don't know where I wanted to go from that. So some of the common additives. Let's look at those. You should have a sheet there. I think it's this one. Yeah. The reason that ultra-processed foods are so harmful is because of the chemical additives, many of which are banned in other countries but still approved here in the USA. And I'll show, I think I have a slide of just one item. It's McDonald's French fries. Anybody ever? You can be honest, come on. Yeah, lately? Okay. What about your grandkids? Yeah. But we'll look at the difference between the United States version of McDonald's French fries and the UK version. And the UK version has 4 ingredients, and the US version has 19 ingredients from McDonald's. And that's because the majority of the things that we put in are banned in Europe. So McDonald's has the formula, they know how to do it, they can make it healthier, but they don't because our FDA allows them to get away with it. Maybe. All right, so first we'll look at monosodium glutamate, MSG. Does everybody know what that is? Yours may be in a different order, but it's commonly found in soups, sauces, processed meats, and it's a flavor enhancer. The health concerns associated with MSG, it's linked to headaches, inflammation, and it's a potential neurotoxic substance. And that's from a study, Nazi, in 2018. Sodium nitrate and nitrates, this is what we were talking about with the lunch meats. It's in your processed meats, most processed bacon, unless you're getting it straight from a butcher or a farmer's market. Hot dogs for sure, and it's a preservative. It just preserves the color of the meat. And you'll find too that packaged meat, I didn't know this until recently, it's very red, it's very bright red. Meat doesn't look like that. They spray gas into the packaging and seal it down, and they often use food colorants to keep the meat looking bright red, because that's not natural, that's not normal. Sodium nitrates and nitrites are associated with increased risks of colorectal cancer. And there's a study from Boulevard from 2015 that goes over that. And then we've got your artificial food dyes. I think some of these have come up through the Health Administration or Health and Human Services, and they're working on banning these and removing these from the food supply. But that's going to be your red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, found in Fruit Loops, Doritos, anything that has a bright color. In the US, because that same product, Fruit Loops, in the UK, they use things like dates or some fruit extract to color it, where here they use these petroleum-based food colorants known to be linked to hyperactivity in children, which is exactly who they market it to, which is ironic. And it's potential carcinogenicity. But those are just to enhance the color. They have no nutritional value, and in fact, they're actually very detrimental to health. So next time you have a package of something, look on the back. If you start seeing food colorings, that's a hard no for me. BHA and BHT, those are very long words. I'm not going to try to say them, but that's going to be in your chips and your cereal, and it's a preservative. These are things that are added for monetary gain only, so that that product can sit on the shelf for a very long time, and the organization or the company that's producing it doesn't lose money to waste, because it's still good on the shelf. It's classified as a carcinogen to humans by the World Health Organization in 1986, yet it's still in our food products. Carrageen, which the gentleman mentioned in the video, comes from red seaweed. Sounds healthy, right? It's not. It's a thickener and a stabilizer, and that's going to be in your nut milks, fat-free milks, dairy alternatives, almond milks, all these things that are marketed as healthy. Because it doesn't have the animal fat in it, this is what they're putting in there. Yes. Linked to intestinal inflammation, gastritis, digestive issues, and colon cancer. To Bachman, 2021, so they've known that for a long time. Propyl glycate, that is an antioxidant preservative in chewing gum, meats, chicken-based soups, and it is a suspected endocrine disruptor and a potential carcinogen. Now these are just a few of the over 10,000 chemicals used in the US food supply. Many of which have never been properly tested, and they go on a list called the GRAS list. Does anybody know what that means? It's an acronym, generally associated as safe. So the food industry tells the FDA, hey, we've got this new chemical, this new thing, we're gonna put it in the food. It's safe. They don't do any testing. They take the word of the food industry and then it goes into our food. So now that we've talked about the additives and understanding the NOVA classification system, anybody depressed yet? This system, again, was created by the gentleman in Brazil, and he was a public health nutritionist. And this is used globally to classify foods based on the extent and purpose of processing. The NOVA study also says that high ultra-processed food consumption has been strongly linked to obesity, not a surprise, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, depression, and even premature death, early death. When in doubt, aim for NOVA 1 and 2. If it came from a factory and not a farm, chances are it's NOVA 4. I have another slide here. This is the McDonald's one, the French fries.
Chelsea and I recently went on a trip to Europe, and when we were over there, my brother-in-law said, hey, I want to go and look at the ingredients and see what a McDonald's is like, but I just want to show you also the difference between McDonald's French fries in the United States versus the United Kingdom. United States has vegetable oils, soybean oil, wheat and milk derivatives, citric acid, dextrose, sodium acid, pyrophosphate, soybean oil, hydrogenated soybean oil, TBHQ, which is a chemical. When we're looking at the United Kingdom, it's vegetable oil from sunflower, potatoes of course, dextrose, and then salt after. Basically it's this. It's potatoes, it's sunflower oil, it's dextrose, and it's salt. So 4 ingredients. The United States version of French fries 10 times worse for our health? Yes, it is. If you go to Europe, they're doing a much better job protecting their kids and families than we are in the United States.
I would argue if you ever had McDonald's in the 80s, back in the 80s, anyone? Back in the 80s, McDonald's used to use beef tallow.
Yes.
They used beef tallow to cook their French fries in, and it didn't have all these other things. There's another thing about McDonald's French fries. They like russet potatoes. They farm their own potatoes, or the highest demand for potatoes, I think, in the world. So these particular russet potatoes, right, they're a certain length, the potatoes are white, makes this blooming bouquet of French fries that are beautiful with no flaws. Well, the flaw in the potato comes from an insect, an aphid. And in order to get that aphid out of the crop, they spray it with something that is so toxic, the farmers do not go back into the field for 5 full days. And when they do, they are in full suits and gas masks to go and harvest these potatoes. And we eat it. Well, yeah. So that's just what happens to the potato before it even gets to the processing part of it. But yeah, I thought you might find that interesting. Why do we eat so much of them? The food industry, a lot of the top producers were bought out by 2 of the top tobacco companies. This was back in the mid-'80s, I want to say, when all the lawsuits against big tobacco, right? When it became apparent that smoking was not good for your health and you shouldn't have a cigarette after you run a marathon. They took all their top scientists and they moved over to the food industry. And they put brain scans on humans to see what combinations of foods and chemicals excite the brain the most. So these foods are engineered and designed to be addictive, to trigger dopamine release, to stimulate the right amount of sugar, the right amount of salt, the mouthfeel. For every aspect of it is designed for you to eat more of it, never get enough of it, and for you to become addicted to it. That's the science is against all of us. Like, how do you fight against that? Right? I mean, it's designed to your detriment. Scary stuff. But that's who's running our food industry, are the tobacco companies and their scientists. So they just switched around. So they say that ultra processed food is like the new smoking. Okay, maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. But that's the reason, right? Obviously, super convenient, tons of marketing, ultra palatable, made to be excitatory to the brain, and just convenient and cheap. So the health risks that you should know, and these are all backed up by research. Of course, a lot of this stuff gets suppressed, and you'll see other research that says just the opposite, and you have to understand the power that these food industries have, the money that they have. The drug industries too, big pharma. For every representative for the food industry, for Congress, there are 35 lobbyists from each industry. So that's one person that's writing policy, trying to do the right thing. They have groups of 30 or more from big pharma, from big food, influencing them to sign this, sign that. Because that's the kind of power and influence that they have. So those are definitely things that you want to write your congressman or whomever about, because we can do a much better job than we do in the United States. It's obvious that the UK and other places are ahead of us, but they're getting their foods from the same people that we do. They already have different recipes and different formulations. That's just not what they provide here. So I'm gonna be a food activist. I feel it coming. Oh boy. Okay, so the health risks. Obviously, the main health risk is the increased risk of obesity and weight gain. With obesity and weight gain, then you start having all these other problems, right? They're linked, comorbidities, I guess you could say. But ultra-processed foods are high in sugar, high in saturated, unhealthy fats, salt and calories, and low in fiber and protein. So you're insatiable. You don't feel full because your brain's not getting the nutrients. Your body's not getting the nutrients that it needs to tell your brain to shut off the eating. So GLP-1s, I'm sure we've all heard of this, right? It's a peptide that's created in your digestive tract. When you eat a lot of ultra-processed foods, you short-circuit that system. So the body never sends the message, hey, I'm full, stop eating, because you're not getting the nutrients from the food. So your body is, while you're eating, it's still in a state of depletion. An example would be a daily breakfast of sugary cereal, flavored yogurt. How about a granola bar on the side and some juice? It's gonna spike your insulin. There's nothing there to slow it down because it doesn't have the healthy fat, it doesn't have the healthy protein, and then your blood sugar is gonna crash like a rocket and you're gonna be starving again. The school lunches are the worst. It's industrialized food. Comes from the same place, yeah. A randomized control trial by Hall, this guy did an interesting study. In 2019 found that consuming ultra-processed foods, people that consume them eat on average 500 calories a day more. So if you don't know, 2,500 calories is a pound, give or take. If you eat 500 calories more a day, by the end of 4 days, you've gained a pound of fat. And then if you do that consistently over time, this gentleman, Hall, he's in the middle of a big study. It's one of the largest randomized trials on ultra-processed foods. It's not complete yet, so the results aren't out. But he did 4 weeks where all he ate was ultra-processed foods, similar to Super Size Me. Did anybody see Super Size Me? Well, Super Size Me, the guy did it for a month. He only ate at McDonald's. He only supersized if they asked, but he had to have 3 meals a day at McDonald's. This guy's similar to that. He had to eat 80% of his calories from ultra-processed foods. But he only did it for 4 weeks. 4 weeks, it's a month. He gained 17 pounds. His blood pressure was through the roof. His triglycerides, which are a much better indicator of heart issues, were through the roof, and his doctor told him, you need to stop. And granted, that's just one person, but they have a trial set up right now where people are allowed to eat all they want to, unprocessed foods, versus the ultra-processed foods, also allowed to eat as much as they want to. I think it'll be very interesting when this study comes out, because they already know the more ultra-processed food you eat, the more calories you just consume in general. Higher risk of type 2 diabetes. Why? Because ultra-processed foods contribute to insulin resistance due to the excessive refined carbohydrates and added sugars. Like we talked about, the fat's not in there, the protein's not in there, the food matrix is disrupted so that there's nothing slowing down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. When your blood sugar rises, your body knows it's got to protect you, so it dumps insulin. Everything that you eat is code for your body to do some process, to do something. And when sugar appears in your bloodstream, it's a hormone release of insulin to bring the blood sugar down and to drive it into the cells. Drinking a can of soda daily or eating packaged pastries can overload your system with added sugar. A research cohort from France found that for each 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption, there's a 15% higher risk of type 2 diabetes. So every 10%, I think the average teenager's ultra-processed food consumption is 75 to 80%. So for each 10%, you're raising your risk of type 2 diabetes by 15%. That's mind-blowing. And we're seeing diseases in younger ages that we never saw. Never. 9 and 10-year-olds with heart disease, children with type 2 diabetes. I just think we need to take a really serious look at what's going on with our food system. Increased risk of heart disease. Why? Because it's industrial trans fats. We all know trans fats are bad, right? Why are they still in our foods? Trans fats, emulsifiers, additives promote inflammation and arterial damage. Processed meats like bologna, hot dogs, snacks and chips, fake cheese crackers, Cheese Whiz, all those food-like products. The Nutrinet Sante study showed a 12% increased risk of heart disease and vascular disease for every 10% increase of ultra-processed food intake. Greater risk of depression. Seems kind of strange, right? If you think about it, all of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. So your gut microbiome, that's the environment in your gut of healthy bacteria versus unhealthy bacteria. I told my husband that. He said, I don't have bacteria. Well, we all do. It's okay. But because of the gut disrupting influence, it kills your neurotransmitters, your ability to create serotonin, dopamine, all these things that are linked to mood. Relying on fast food and instant noodles several times a week may lead to nutrient deficiencies, according to cognition, including cognition and mood. In the UK, a biobank study found that higher ultra-processed food intake was associated with a 22% increased risk of depression. And they say that the jury's out. In some articles you read, they say, well, we just don't know yet. From everything that I've seen, it's plenty for me. Risks of cancer. Why? Additives like nitrates and nitrites in processed meats, chemical compounds from high heat processing, regular consumption of deli meats, bacon, packaged frozen meals. Same thing, another study in 2018 found that same 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption associated with a 10% rise in overall cancer risks. Especially breast cancer on this one. So there's a book I would recommend. Dr. Chris Van Tolken, he's one of the guys I noted in here. He's doing that study that hasn't been complete yet. He wrote a book called Ultra Processed People. It's a great book, it really is. I recommend that you find that one on Amazon and take a look. So the consequences are real from overconsumption. The question is, what is overconsumption? Well, I guess we all have to kind of decide that for ourselves. Your body does have an internal clock, though, and it keeps track of everything. But for me, knowing what's in it is so helpful, because almost just the thought of eating it It just turns me off. Even my husband's like, you've ruined me. I can't eat anywhere now. Mother's Day, can we have cake? I'm like, you can have cake. I don't want it. He's like, but I'm trying to see where I want to pick up at. As you add more ultra-processed food to your diet, the risk of premature death from any cause rises. According to a new meta-analysis of research involving more than 240,000 people, it's a pretty big study, they looked at the risk of a person dying from eating more ultra-processed food between the ages of 30 and 69, a time when dying would be considered premature. The study co-authored, this is the gentleman Carlos Montero that came up with the NOVA system that we talked about. So this is the same researcher. Said that for each 10% increase in total calories from ultra-processed food, the risk of premature dying rises 3%. He's the one that coined the term ultra-processed foods. But a 3% increase in all-cause mortality for every 10% increase in calories from ultra-processed food. What does the science say? I think I should have flipped my calendar over to this one, but we've kind of gone over some of the research that's out there in my paper. A copy of this will be available to you online. It has all the references that I used to state these things, so you'll know that I'm not making it up. It's really what the science says, and it's out there and it's available to you. And as we've learned today, ultra-processed food may be convenient, but over time, they can quietly chip away at your health, affecting everything from your heart to your brain, to your weight, and your well-being. I know in our community, you may not always have full control over every ingredient that goes into the meals, but you can ask questions. You can make mindful choices and advocate for healthier options. Choosing fresh whole foods, even small swaps, can make meaningful differences. For instance, my husband thinks I'm crazy once again. We go out to a restaurant and I'll ask them, what type of oil do you prepare that in? I'm allergic to canola oil, deathly allergic. Can you cook it in butter? The answer is yes. Yes, they can. But if you don't ask, the answer is no. So it may seem like a lot, but it's your health at the end of the day, and you're paying for the food. So why not inquire and ask? Remember, it's never too late. I heard someone say, well, it's too late for us. Isn't it too late for us? No, it's not. It's not too late. Who's 84 in here? So I'm 84 years old. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the average age in our community is 84. So I only saw a couple hands. That means that most of you are below the average age here. That means you still got lots of time left. Is it 85?
No, we're above that.
Oh, we're above that. I didn't get those hands. Okay. Well, it's never too late to nourish your body well. And just like the gentleman that I mentioned, Mr. Hall, 4 weeks can turn your health in a downward turn. 4 weeks can also turn your health in an upward trajectory. Because the way it is, nothing is stagnant. Everything is moving. It's moving in one direction or the other. So you really got to look at how are your choices moving you towards health and wellness or towards illness. Every healthy choice is a step towards feeling stronger, clearer, and more energized. And let's continue to take care of ourselves and each other by staying informed and speaking up for better food choices. But they're everywhere. What can we do? I kind of got out of order. But reading labels, cooking at home, which I know is a source of contention around here. But even small things. I thought about doing I don't know what you would call it. Like they do a cooking kitchen. I thought about doing a little cooking kitchen with like some really healthy canned fish, things that you can keep and stuff that you can make, just to show that you can do some little quick things instead of grabbing that thing at the bistro. Stuff that you can make at home that's not a whole cooking process. Yeah? Would you guys come?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you
So-
take over the bistro?
You know, it's interesting, when I was going to school to get my bachelor's degree, I did some odd jobs for my brother, but one of the things I did was I personal trained people in my garage, and I got into food preparation. I was doing prepped meals for people on the weekends, but you never know. I have to give it a different name. Real food, real benefits. So real food's always the better choice. We know what it looks like because it doesn't have ingredients. It is what it is. It's not a long list of things. It's gonna build your immunity, keep you at a healthy weight, improve your mood, better sleep, and more energy. If it didn't come from a plant or animal, but came from a plant, like smokestacks, a plant, don't eat it. And the final takeaway, we did this. I won't go back over that. I'll open the floor for questions if you have questions. I'm gonna give you this microphone. I'll try to get everybody, just bear with me.
My question is, what can you do to make a decision when you're making a purchase, for instance, in my case, yogurt? I always buy plain yogurt that's just white. Does that have additives in it? Do I have to read the label for 2 hours?
I would look at the label, but it shouldn't be hard to read because there shouldn't be much in it.
No fruit, I never buy the fruit.
Yeah, sorry, let me figure this out. Okay. So what she was asking is plain yogurt, we talked about that, right? Look at it. It's plain Greek yogurt. It is processed, but it's not ultra processed. Right? It didn't come out of the cow like that, and it did have to undergo something, but they didn't take anything away from it, and they didn't add anything to it. Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna let you hold it so you can talk.
What about frozen food, frozen fruit versus fresh? Or frozen veggies versus fresh? Do frozen ones have a lot of additives?
Actually, I always opt for organic. One place where you are doing yourself a favor for buying the organic version versus the not is in a fruit that you're gonna eat the skin of. And frozen fruit, it's actually frozen at the time that it's picked, is actually higher in nutrients. And you don't have to worry about the shelf life of it, right? But they're actually higher, frozen organic blueberries are higher in nutrients than the ones you're gonna get from the store.
Well, thank you.
Yes. You wanna pass that to whoever's next? I'm trying not to squeal and I'm not doing a good job. Right behind you. You pass the hot potato.
Yeah, this is all very interesting, but we all eat at the Ark. How compliant, how concerned is the Ark dining facility when it comes to this issue?
And there's the bomb. Occam gave me a menu here. There are items and food in the Bluebonnet and across the way that you can make extremely healthy, right? We have to, again, it's asking those questions. But if you stick with the salads, the meat, I know they have a salad option that's just got, I think it's salmon or chicken or beef on top of it. I'd bring my own dressing, oil and vinegar, olive oil, right? Don't eat the dressings. But they are some healthy choices. The bistro, I can't help you there. Because everything it comes from Sysco, pre whatever they've already done to it, and then it's dumped into grease and fried, seed oils. So the bistro is not a place that I would go if I was looking to make a healthy choice, but you can come right over to the Bluebonnet. I know they've got a steak on the menu. There are some items that can be healthy. You just have to kind of reprogram yourself. It's safe. Yes.
So Carrie, I consider the Bluebonnet death by salt. If you put a steak and you put it in salt brine for 24 hours, that steak is pretty salty.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they prepare it. Is that what they do?
I don't know, is anybody from the food committee or the dining services here?
I am, but I haven't been to a meeting in 4 months.
Okay. Yeah. The other one is, why did we start putting sugar on the pecans on the spinach salad? And I know I can say, let's hold the pecans, but why?
That's a very good question that I don't know the answer to.
Your gut was telling you something.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Burning desire, question to ask? Right over here. My microphone runner. I wouldn't mind being on the dining committee meeting. Is there a way that can happen? Oh. Go ahead, Dale.
One they have here is black mold that they put into ice cream. I like ice cream. So why would, what's the black mold do? That's what but it says it's good, it's a black,
Okay, so you're looking at,
got a black dot on it.
yeah, well, where you're looking at, sir, you're looking at the minimal concern. These are the green ones.
Yeah.
So that's not a big concern.
Oh, it's not a-
When you go back to the next page, the yellow ones, those are ones you want to limit. Then the ones that have the red dot, you
Yeah.
definitely want to not consume. You can still have your ice cream.
Yeah, I keep eating ice cream.
But I'll tell you, I know this because I live with two ice cream connoisseurs. Not all ice creams are created equal. And I would argue that, I'm not gonna get the churn out, I'm not that crazy yet, and, churn up some ice cream. But if I did, it would be whole fat dairy milk, real sugar, not high fructose corn syrup, and then whatever fruit or whatever I was gonna put in it. It would be a far cry healthier than soft serve, which if you look at it's not even, I don't even think it has dairy in it. But even, I don't want to say Bluebell, but the H-E-B brand of ice cream, I looked at it and I was like, I can't conscientiously buy this for my son. If he wants to get it somewhere else, fine, but I go through to find the one that is the healthiest short of churning it up myself. So, yes, sir.
And I've lost a restaurant chain name, but there are some restaurant chains that are moving to beef tallow. That means to me that there can't be a huge expense difference, one to the other. And I'm not saying it's as wonderful as it should be,
Yeah.
but it would be perhaps a move in the right direction. Do you have any concept of the finances or whatever of making that change? Because I did try one of them, it actually tasted better too than my memory of the same chain.
Yes. I think I had started to mention that before about McDonald's and I got distracted. In the 80s, McDonald's used beef tallow. McDonald's French fries used to be amazing. They are not the same. The way they get that natural beef flavoring now is some kind of dairy product and some kind of chemical something or another to try to make it taste the way it tasted before. Beef tallow just in of itself is way healthier. It's full of nutrients than seed oils that they cook in. What happens though is places that are ordering frozen fries, they've already been cooked in seed oils. Now, granted, then it's double jeopardy because they take that's already been cooked in seed oils and then drop them in some seed oil that's been hot for who knows how long till they change the grease, and then it's like smoking a cigarette. It's that kind of toxicity. It really is. So yes, beef tallow would be healthier. Yes, I do know the cost to some degree because I did a sort of cost analysis and presented that to Gordon and had a conversation with him about the possibility of getting at least an air fryer so that these things could be air fried and there's no oil. But I think the rub becomes Morrison is industrial food. And what they do for one place, they want it to be uniform across the board because that's how they save money, is doing things in bulk in a large amount. But the air fryer would be something completely different, right? The resident says, I'd like that air fried. There's a big air fryer back there, you throw it in there instead of throwing it in the grease. So it's definitely, even though it's already been processed to some degree, it certainly makes it better. And that's when we start talking about little choices adding up over time, right? If you eat those fries every single day, well, that adds up. If they're air fried instead, you are minimizing the percentage of calories from ultra-processed food, thus reducing your risk, I would say.
Can I ask a question? When did we decide to go to Morrison's? For food service?
That is before my time, and I do not have the answer to that.
About 2012.
Does anybody know
It was about 2012.
when we went
Repeat
to
the
Morrison's?
2012 is what
About
she's saying.
2012. 'Cause we came
What happened in
11.
2012? Can you
Went to
repeat the
Morrison's.
question?
Yeah.
When the ARC decided to go to Morrison as a food service company, I believe that happened in 2012.
Yeah, we came in 11. And
You want to give her the mic?
I'm usually not.
We came in 2011 and it was still run by the ARC as far as all the cooking was done and the menus were provided. And then Morrison came in and that's when things seemed to change a little.
Wait 1 second. Hold that question 1 second. I forgot to show you guys this. TBQ, do you guys remember that from the talk? It's in McDonald's French fries. It's other places too. It's a very long word. Tetrabutylhydroquinone, TBHQ. So I went online to see if I could buy some TBHQ. It comes as a white powdery substance, right? This is from Lero Chem. And then it has it as a food additive, widely used as a synthetic food antioxidant to protect the oils and fats from oxidating. You know when you bite into an apple, it turns brown? Oxidative. They put this in the fries and other things so that they don't change color. So it's solely for aesthetics. Well, then you turn the page, and at the very last page, there's a warning. There's a hazard icon at the bottom. And it says, danger phrases, harmful if swallowed. Wait, it gets better. Irritating to skin, severely irritating to eyes, and may cause respiratory irritation. TBHQ right here. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Is it working? Yeah. Morrison is our food service, but the Cisco truck drives up to the loading dock every morning.
They get their food from
And
Cisco.
that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And then I got a little natural ice cream maker, and it doesn't make very much, and I'm making our natural.
Is that the Cremini?
No, it's croissant.
Okay.
And so, the difference is when I make my ice cream and put it in the freezer and keep it for a bit, it melts right away.
Yeah.
They put stuff in ice cream so it won't melt.
Yeah.
So it won't
And that's
melt.
particularly your soft serve. If you go pick up an ice cream sandwich or whatever, set it out in the sun tomorrow when it's 106 degrees, and it'll still stay very gooey. Nothing will run out from the sides of it. That should be a warning sign. There is a gentleman that has saved a McDonald's hamburger for 25 years. It's the last one they served in the UK before they banned it or whatever. Iceland. It's in Iceland. Iceland banned McDonald's. So this guy bought this hamburger, the last one served in Iceland, and it's been under this glass container. It still looks the same. Because there's nothing organic about it, right? Organic material. I found this out the hard way. I bought a little tray of strawberries from the farmer's market. I left them on my counter 2 nights. Flies, mold, and I was like, oh my God. I should have cut them and washed them and put them in the refrigerator, but stuff that is fresh doesn't stay on the shelf. If you've got bread on your counter, it's been there for 3 weeks, it's not green yet, that's a problem. That's a serious problem. Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. I'll stay around if you have questions you want to ask me directly. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. Check it out.
Bourbon's still good. Beer. Okay. More milk. You might.
Like I ordered some, 3 of my 4 already. They didn't say that, the call said 3 already. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, Miss Libby. From 125 to 100.
Get my walker. I passed. I got kicked out. Yes.
Yeah, so what I want to know.
Congratulations.
Candy cover.
So anyway.
You better go talk to this lady. Well, I have a doctor's appointment. Oh, and so maybe they'll answer. I bet you she can answer before. Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. I get a migraine. Carbohydrate. One way to stay thin. Yeah, I was going to say. All right. Here you go. Oh.
You get good, so take you a little sugar.
What's that? I'm not.
Hello, okay.
No. He knows that.
You might not like red sitting there.
Probably. But again, that's.
I just got out of PE or PT.
Everything is so much easier. When, I hate to say that, but with this was good. I mean, it scares the heck out of me. It's like being at home. That's why the only time it's not like that is when you're in upper peninsula. I mean, the phone works, but you don't want to here. No, but that. And what date is that? And 3 weeks, so mid-August.
One thing I like.
Oh, yeah, no. There's. And that's so loaded with salt. Wrap it up in a cheese stick. I want to. Well, what did you say about cheese, John? Did she say anything about cheese?
Did she say anything about cheese?
Well, she did say. Nice to meet you. She pointed out.